Think back to two fully grown men tearing across America in a completely unhinged, dog-shaped van, carrying a briefcase packed with cash they absolutely should have stayed away from. Back in 1994, New Line Cinema dropped Dumb and Dumber, throwing us into the chaotic world of Lloyd Christmas, played by Jim Carrey, and Harry Dunn, played by Jeff Daniels. These two clueless friends set off on a wild road trip to Aspen, Colorado, chasing one simple goal that quickly spirals into pure madness. They're trying to return a forgotten briefcase to Mary Swanson, played by Lauren Holly, but the way they go about it is straight up chaos from start to finish. Directed by Peter and Bobby Farrelly, the movie goes all in with slapstick comedy, over-the-top gross-out moments, and physical gags that hit fast and hard like old-school silent films. Somehow, this risky mid-budget project turned into a massive global hit that people still talk about today. Now we're breaking down 10 weird and wild facts you probably never caught about Dumb and Dumber. And stay locked in for number 1, because the Aspen you saw in the movie wasn't even real, and the hotel they filmed at has a crazy link to one of the most famous horror stories ever written. Before we dive in, hit like, subscribe, and show some love for this video. This is $21. Now grab that bright orange tux, because it's time to hit the road. Number 10, Lloyd's tooth. And no, that wild look was not special effects. That grin Lloyd Christmas flashes, it's awkward, a little unhinged, and honestly kind of sticks in your head long after the movie ends. It looks like something a full makeup team carefully designed, but nope, it was 100% real.
How do you do the tooth? And I know you've talked about this before somewhere, but how do you make it look like it's removed? How do you do that?
I remove the bonding that I've had on there since I was 11 years old. I had, for about, 5 years of my life, I had a chip in my tooth, just like Lloyd, because my best friend Clark LaPrairie and I were in detention. He looked outside, we were fooling around, I heard someone coming, put my head down on the desk, he looked outside, saw there was no one there, did the entire length of the classroom and a cannonball on my skull. And I can see it now, still in slow motion, the chip flying across.
Years later, he had it fixed with a dental veneer and went on living life like anyone would. But when Dumb and Dumber came around, Carrey started thinking Lloyd still didn't look ridiculous enough. Something felt off, and then it hit him. That old chipped tooth memory came rushing back. So what did he do? He called his dentist, got that veneer taken off, and just like that, boom, Lloyd Christmas was born. That smile instantly went from goofy to straight up chaotic in one appointment. And he didn't just do it for a scene either. He kept the tooth like that for the entire shoot. That means he was walking around in public, off set, at restaurants, everywhere, looking exactly like Lloyd. That's a next level commitment, no shortcuts at all. And according to reports, Lauren Holly, who played Mary Swanson, wasn't exactly excited about dealing with that grin up close all the time. Still, that chipped tooth ended up becoming one of Lloyd's most iconic features. A random childhood accident turned into one of the most unforgettable looks in 90s comedy, and it still hits the same today. Number 9. The comedy was half script, half straight up chaos. Dumb and Dumber always felt like it was barely holding itself together, and that's because a big chunk of it actually wasn't planned at all. Around 15% of the movie was improvised, which explains why so many scenes feel wild and unpredictable. The production used something called a 2+1 rule, 2 takes sticking to the script, and then a third where anything could happen. And Jim Carrey, he treated that third take like his own personal playground, the famous most annoying sound in the world moment. Yeah, that wasn't written in the script at all. The scene was supposed to just be Harry and Lloyd arguing in the car to annoy the hitman, Joe Mentalino. Then suddenly Carrey turns and says, "Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?" And just unleashes that insane noise. If you watch closely, Jeff Daniels looks genuinely surprised before he jumps in, and Mike Starr's reaction? Totally real, no acting needed. That's the kind of unpredictable energy they captured on camera. And then you've got the legendary big gulps, huh? Alright, well, see you later. Moment. Those guys outside the store weren't even actors. They were just random locals standing there watching filming. Carrey walked right up, dropped the line, and left them hanging. Whether they knew what was going on or were just stunned in the moment, their awkward silence made the scene unforgettable. Even smaller details came out of nowhere. When Lloyd walks out in Aspen, spots that old newspaper and says, "No way we landed on the moon." That line was completely made up on the spot. It sells the idea that Lloyd is totally out of touch, and the directors loved it so much they kept it without thinking twice. That unpredictable vibe wasn't an accident, it was built into the process. The Farrelly Brothers gave Carrey just enough freedom to go off the rails, and he took it every single time. The result? A movie where you can't always tell what was planned and what was pure in the moment madness unfolding right in front of the camera. Number 8, I Got Worms somehow turned into a real business idea. The whole joke was supposed to be ridiculous. Lloyd proudly pitching worm farms like they're the next big thing, saying it with full confidence like he just cracked the code to success. He's completely serious, totally convinced, and doesn't realize how strange it sounds. That's what made it funny. But then real life stepped in and missed the joke completely. After the movie dropped, actual worm-selling businesses started getting calls from people quoting the film or asking about European night crawlers. And yes, those companies already existed, but suddenly they had curious fans reaching out, like Lloyd was onto something big. It didn't stop with a few phone calls either. Some fans actually tried to start their own worm farms after watching the movie. Lloyd Christmas, without even trying, turned into a low-key business influencer, and that's not something anyone saw coming. The I Got Worms storefront itself was filmed in Breckenridge, Colorado, where most of the Aspen Street scenes were shot. The shop was fake, but the impact very real. And while worm farms didn't exactly take over the world, something else from the movie exploded overnight. Those loud, bright blue and orange tuxedos suddenly became a must-have. After the film's success, sales of those over-the-top suits shot up fast, popping up at proms, weddings, and costume parties everywhere. That wild fashion choice turned into a full-blown trend, and honestly, it's one of the loudest style waves ever sparked by a comedy movie. Number 7, the sea bass scam wasn't just dumb, it was straight up meta. When Lloyd pulls that smooth put it on his tab move at the diner and sticks sea bass with the bill, he casually drops that he learned it from a movie. Sounds like a random joke, right? Nope, there's way more going on. That line is actually a hidden inside joke. Back in the 1986 film Something Wild, Jeff Daniels plays a clean-cut businessman named Charlie who gets dragged into chaos. Early in that movie, Melanie Griffith's character convinces him to skip out on a restaurant bill using the exact same trick. Create a distraction, slip out quietly, and disappear before anyone catches on. Now jump to Dumb and Dumber, and Lloyd runs that exact same scam like he's a pro. And when Harry looks confused, Lloyd just shrugs and says, I saw it in a movie. Here's the wild part. Jeff Daniels is literally standing right there while Lloyd explains a scam straight out of a Jeff Daniels movie, and Harry doesn't react at all. That clueless silence makes the joke hit even harder. It's like the movie is winking at you without saying a word, stacking the joke on 2 levels at once. Number 6, the Saturday morning cartoon version that nobody really saw coming. After Dumb and Dumber blew up in 1994, it got pulled into that classic 90s trend, turn every hit movie into a cartoon. So in 1995, Hanna-Barbera brought Harry and Lloyd to ABC in animated form, and it ended up marking a weird little moment in TV history. This was actually the final Hanna-Barbera series to ever premiere on a major broadcast network. Yeah, the end of an era carried by 2 guys who can barely function. Now, if you thought Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels would jump in to voice their characters, not even close. Neither of them came back. Instead, Lloyd was voiced by Matt Frewer, known for Max Headroom, and Harry was voiced by Bill Fagerbakke, who would later become Patrick Star on SpongeBob SquarePants. So in a strange way, Harry Dunn walked so Patrick Star could run. Since it was a cartoon, everything got way more over the top. They even added a purple beaver named Kitty as their pet. And here's the running joke. Harry and Lloyd are too clueless to realize she's a beaver, so they keep treating her like a cat every single time. That level of commitment to being completely out of it never lets up. The show did have some real ties to the original movie, with Bennett Yellen, one of the film's co-writers, working on it too, but even that couldn't save it. The series only lasted 13 episodes, ran for about 5 months, and then quietly disappeared. Fast rise, fast fall, just like one of Lloyd's genius ideas. Number 5, written behind a motel front desk. Before Dumb and Dumber made huge money at the box office, Peter and Bobby Farrelly were working at a worn-down motel in Cumberland, Rhode Island. Their father owned the place, And while they were chasing a break in Hollywood, they were also stuck checking in guests and answering phones just to keep things running. And right there, in between all that, they were writing the script. 1 minute handling a customer, the next minute jumping back into jokes about two clueless guys on a chaotic road trip. That grind-heavy environment shaped the whole tone of the movie. It gave the comedy that raw, everyday feel, the kind that hits because it feels real and a little rough around the edges. That wasn't even the hardest part. Before Dumb and Dumber finally got made, the Farrelly Brothers spent 9 long years in Hollywood without getting a single film produced. 9 years of doors closing, ideas getting rejected, and nothing landing. During that time, they were reportedly surviving on credit cards and pure determination. No guarantees, no backup plan, just pushing forward until something finally clicked. That struggle ended up being baked right into the humor, giving the film that grounded anything can happen energy that people still connect with. Number 4, Harry and Lloyd were actually a silent film throwback. Put their names together, Harry Dunn and Lloyd Christmas, and you get Harold Lloyd. That's not random at all. The Farrelly Brothers did that on purpose as a tribute to one of the biggest legends in silent film comedy. Harold Lloyd was famous for pulling off wild physical stunts, especially that iconic moment where he's hanging off a clock tower in Safety Last back in 1923. This guy was risking it all for laughs way before modern comedy even existed. Long before Jim Carrey showed up in that loud orange tux, Harold Lloyd was already setting the standard for high-energy physical humor. And it's not just the name, it's the whole style. Dumb and Dumber leans hard into slapstick, exaggerated reactions, and over-the-top body language that sometimes says more than the dialogue ever could. The Farrellys have openly pointed to silent film icons like Harold Lloyd, Buster Keaton, and Charlie Chaplin as major influences behind the movie's visual comedy. You can see it in every fall, every wild expression, every perfectly timed physical gag. It's that kind of humor where one ridiculous moment lands harder than a full page of lines. There's even a connection in the characters themselves. Harold Lloyd often played an optimistic, well-meaning guy who stumbled into chaos just by being hopeful. Harry and Lloyd might not be the sharpest, but they are genuinely trying to do the right thing by returning that briefcase. Under all the wild jokes and bizarre moments, the movie is quietly giving a nod to a comedy style that's been around for over 100 years. And honestly, Harold Lloyd probably would have respected the tribute, at least until he hit that infamous laxative scene. Number 3, the gallbladder attack everyone thought was just another joke. Jim Carrey built a reputation for going all in with physical comedy, so when he suddenly collapsed during filming, nobody thought it was serious at first. While shooting at an airport, he doubled over in pain, dropped to the ground, and started rolling around, and the crew barely reacted because it looked exactly like something he'd normally do. This was a guy known for pushing his body to the limit for laughs, so the chaos didn't raise alarms right away. Even the on-set medics didn't jump in immediately because it seemed like part of the act, but this wasn't a bit, it was real. Carrey was actually having a gallbladder attack, and the pain was no joke. Once people realized what was really happening, everything shifted fast. He was rushed to the hospital, where doctors removed his gallbladder and told him to rest. That alone sounds intense, but then things took a strange turn. His co-star Karen Duffy reportedly asked if she could keep his gallstones after the surgery to turn them into cufflinks, and somehow Carrey went along with it, at least at first. Later, he told her he had already given them to someone he was dating at the time, so now his gallstones were basically being handed out like souvenirs. That detail alone sounds unreal. And even after surgery, he didn't slow down. Doctors told him to take it easy, but he came back to set almost immediately. On his first day back, he jumped straight into filming the intense briefcase fight scene with Jeff Daniels. Full physical action, rolling on the ground, no holding back. Why? Because it was the only time they had access to that location, so the scene had to happen. No delays, no backup plan, just straight into chaos again. Gallbladder gone, recovery ignored, and Carrey right back in the middle of the madness like nothing ever happened. That level of commitment is hard to believe, but it explains why every moment feels so real and so out of control. He didn't just play Lloyd, he pushed himself to the edge to make it unforgettable. Number 2, the blind kid punchline that took 20 years to come back. Billy in 4C, the kid with the taped up bird. Yeah, that moment hit in 1994 and then just disappeared. Or at least that's what everyone thought. That joke really sat there for 2 full decades before making a surprise return. In the original movie, Billy is the kid Lloyd tricks by selling him Petey, a bird that is very clearly not alive with its head taped back on. It's one of the most shocking and dark jokes in the whole film, and most people assume that was the end of it. But 20 years later, Dumb and Dumber 2 brought it back. Brady Bloom, the actor who played Billy, returned to the role, turning it into one of the longest running callback jokes in comedy sequel history, and the real life story behind it, somehow even crazier. When the Farrelly Brothers started putting the sequel together, they had no idea where he was. He had stepped away from acting completely and was working as an educator. So how did they find him? Facebook. That's right. The internet pulled Billy from 4C back into the spotlight. And even though he originally played the role, the studio still made him audition again. They wanted to make sure he still had the timing. And after 20 years, he proved he still did. In the sequel, Billy's all grown up, still living in the same apartment, now surrounded by a huge collection of rare birds. And Lloyd, he walks in and drops the same line like no time has passed. Pretty bird. That callback hit after 2 decades, and somehow the joke still landed just as awkwardly as before. Number 1, Aspen was a total lie. For a movie that feels like a full-on love letter to Aspen, Colorado, almost none of it was actually filmed there at all. In fact, the real Aspen reportedly didn't even want the production filming in town, so the crew did what Hollywood always does. They built their own version of Aspen from scratch across multiple states. Most of the iconic street scenes, including that unforgettable moped arrival, were filmed in Breckenridge, Colorado. Snow-covered sidewalks, cozy ski town energy, and instant Aspen vibes, without actually being Aspen at all. It looks real enough on screen, but it's basically a movie illusion holding everything together. Then you've got Park City, Utah stepping in for the more upscale moments. The fancy gala scenes and many of the hotel interiors were filmed at Deer Valley Resort, giving that polished old money mountain luxury feel that screams high-end Aspen life. Except it's not Aspen either. Even the airport scenes aren't from Colorado. Those were shot at Salt Lake City International Airport, hundreds of miles away from where Harry and Lloyd were supposedly headed in the story, so their Aspen journey is basically stitched together from multiple states pretending to be one place. And the famous Danbury Hotel exterior, that's actually the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado, the same hotel that inspired Stephen King's The Shining. So now you've got a cozy winter comedy filming at one of the most famously haunted hotels in American fiction. And in a wild twist, Jim Carrey reportedly even checked out of the Stanley Hotel in the middle of the night during filming because he believed it was haunted. The man spent the whole movie battling imaginary chaos on screen, but apparently wasn't as comfortable with the off-screen atmosphere. In the end, the most convincing part of Aspen and Dumber is the fact that it was never one real place at all, just a perfectly stitched together illusion that somehow became iconic. And that wraps it up. 10 weird, wild, and honestly kind of unbelievable facts about Dumb and Dumber. Which moment caught you off guard the most? Drop it in the comments and don't hold back. And yeah, send this to a friend who still says big gulps, like it's a personality trait. If you enjoyed the ride, make sure to like, subscribe, and share so you don't miss the next deep dive into chaos like this. And until then, keep those weird movie facts coming. This is $21 signing off.